It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So my friends, we're coming to election time, November 7th, and we have everyone going out telling you how great they are and how wonderful they are, and you know, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Well, you know, what happens is when they make these promises, do they live up to these promises, all right? Especially my friends, the elderly people, you know, they come out and they just, you know, they jump on you people and tell you, we're going to do this for the elderly, we're going to do that. So sometimes we want to hold them to their word. Well, Christine Holman, who is the current district attorney, is running for re-election. Let's go back a little bit, 4 years ago. Christine Holman, when she campaigned 4 years ago, she said she was going to fight to protect our elderly. She was going to work to stamp out the scourge of drug abuse and fight community blight. Well, the question is, did she do that? Well, Christine Holman, did you do that?
I did, Sam, and the reason that I decided to run for district attorney 4 years ago was for the reasons that I made promises. I saw Schuylkill County, unfortunately, crumbling. A lot of our small towns were experiencing major issues of blight, and frankly, I didn't think that our citizens were being protected enough. There wasn't enough attention being paid to that very issue. I saw a lot of crime, as in many counties and neighborhoods. I saw a lot of drug abuse. I also had heard many talk about helping elders, but I had wondered, well, what exactly were they doing to help the elderly? And my platform was that if I would be elected, I would educate the elderly on how to protect themselves, because that's really where it's at. And I've done a lot of that over the past 4 years. Many seniors see me out at bazaars and picnics and say, oh, you spoke to us, thank you, will you come back?
Let's stay on that. You know, one of the biggest things, you know, it's unfortunate today we have the drug problem that we have. You see it, Dr. Moylan sees it as a Schuylkill County coroner, and we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, how you work so well with him. But you conducted 9 drug waves over the 3 years, okay? But one of the things that I think are very important, and you've been doing an excellent job on this, okay? It's getting out, talking to people. Here in Narcan Drug Court discussed at Law Enforcement Symposium. DA stresses commitment to providing information updates to police officers. This is the kind of information, and you're all over the county, okay? So you've been all over the county, you name it, you've been there. How did that work for you, getting out to the community and giving these kind of seminars?
I think it works fabulous, Sam. I meet with 30 to 40 people at a time. They have a lot of questions about how does a drug raid happen? How do you, Christine Holman, plan on getting drugs off the street? And I can start from scratch, and I can tell them that the Schuylkill County Drug Task Force consists of all police officers in all of the 67 municipalities in Schuylkill County. Schuylkill County District Attorney's Office has 2 full-time detectives. We're looking at acquiring another one, specializing in drugs and drug raids with forfeiture monies. No other cost to the county. But what people like to hear is how it happens. Many people will say to me, well, I saw a drug deal going down yesterday.
Yes.
I saw someone handing something off to another individual. I know it had to be drugs. Say, well, you're probably right. However, do not ever take matters into your own hands. You need to call the drug task force or call the police. And what you may have seen very well could have been drugs being handed off to someone who is addicted. But the police need to intercept that. The police need to lay the groundwork. They need to work on what's called a controlled buy, where they have perhaps a confidential informant that is making a buy. They know what they're getting is an actual drug because it has to be tested at a lab before we can prosecute. And they're giving that individual money that perhaps has been marked or recorded in some manner so that we have ironclad proof. the 9 drug raids that were conducted over a period of 3.5 years. And I can add to that, Sam, there's been 2 additional raids since that card was printed in mid 2016.
Okay. So going to the drug raids, okay, but and then leading up to them as you get this information. First of it, everything is anonymous. So sometimes the law does not work in favor of the protected person. It works in favor of the criminal. That's because you have, this is my opinion, wacko liberals in our Congress and in the state government that want to make it better for those people who are breaking the law. Okay, so but putting that aside, so you have to live with that. You, as the district attorney, have to live with the law. So now you may take a person that people know did wrong, go to court, but because of the law, because of the loopholes in the law, you may not be able to get what you want from that person. It's not your fault, is it?
No, and I certainly don't like to make excuses for the Office of the Prosecution. However, we do have a very tough job because of the strict standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Oftentimes, Sam, we will look at a sure thing. If we have someone who we know is dealing drugs, but of course we don't have an ironclad case, and really, you never have an ironclad case. You have 12 jurors who you think could go in one direction, they don't. So oftentimes you may look to effectuate a plea bargain where you're going to get what you can and you're going to get further information. If you have a video, if you have eyewitness, that is great. The more evidence that you have would, of course, lean towards what strategy you're going to employ as far as taking the matter to trial, or if you're going to take the sure thing and get a guilty plea. The guilty pleas are what really make the system run. We have, and in Schuylkill County, we have 5 trial terms a year, about 600 cases each term. Yeah. There's no way you can try 600 cases, so some of them wind up as guilty pleas, and I can say that is a good resolution.
Well, I always look at, the performance of the person who's in office, okay? And like, we have a lot of great politicians out there that are working, and they really mean it. They're doing a good job. But here you talked about, here again, you made a promise about Blight, and you went after Blight. In fact, I have an article here. It says, eyesore coming down, demolition crew finishing work on blighted East Market Street property in Pottsville, and there's many more of these things that you did address. So in other words, you told the public you're going to go after Blight, and you did. So let's talk about how that Blight thing is going now.
Certainly, Sam, I believe it really has taken off to where I would like it to be. The direction that I'd like it to be going is where it's at. I started off with a lot of non-believers that, you're not possibly going to be able to charge individuals with crimes that have dilapidated properties. Well, I believe I have proved them wrong. To have a dilapidated property, it is a crime, and the Crimes Code says so. Currently, Sam, in the article that you mentioned, is a property in Pottsville on East Market Street that stood in such a disastrous condition for about 5 years. And I'm certainly not patting myself on the back, but until the criminal complaint was filed against this property owner, it wasn't until then that we really got his attention to let him know, look, the city of Pottsville, Schuylkill County, the district attorney's office is serious about cleaning up the county. And when I took on Blight, I meant to win, and I do mean to win and continue winning the fight on Blight, not just in Pottsville. I've tackled properties in Ashland, Girardville, Tower City. I have individuals who call me now, and I do believe that they trust in me as far as getting things done.
And when you say getting things done, I think sometimes, no one could do it themselves, okay? So what you did is you started the initiative, then you were able to go out and get the people to work and help you. Who are some of the politicians, okay, that were there for you in Schuylkill County when you needed help, okay, and some of the people that were there because you were able to put them together and say, here's a direction, and then you had a team working?
Dave Argel, I would say, is the politician that helped the most with his blight bill. And however, starting from the ground up, the code enforcement officers in Schuylkill County really are my right arms in dealing with the war on blight. They're on the street. They're reporting this, they're hearing it, they're taking photos, they're working hand in hand with the police, they're getting that information to me, and I'm getting it out to the public as far as a cry for help or, look, a warning, we're taking this very seriously, and you're going to be penalized under the Crimes Code.
Folks, I'm talking to District Attorney Christine Holman. She's up for re-election this year, and some of the things that she had said she was going to do as promises made, promises kept. Very seldom do you find that with, well, some of our politicians who just want your vote and they'll tell you anything, lie to you, and then when they get in, it's taking care of their friends, their political parties, and all this stuff. And that's why we have the mess that we have today in the country. Also, folks, don't forget to download our app, SSP TV. Search SSP TV. So I want to stay on that area, Christine. You made promises, and look, it's when I interviewed Tom Corbett, he was Attorney General. He ran for office, he said, I'm doing this. 4 years he did. He ran re-elected. He said he was going to do things, and he did them, okay? Boy, isn't that sad? A politician tells you to do something, and they actually do it. Okay, now these are facts. I'm not just saying it because you're real, but these are facts. You did your job. Now, you have been able, from what I understand, people tell me, you've been knocking on doors, and you're asking for input from people, and you get a lot of, well, Christine this, Christine that. What are some of the key things when you're knocking on doors and you're going to all these different locations, not only Pottsville, but you're all over the place in Schuylkill County? What are some of the things that concern citizens that are paying their taxes, that are not in your office 24 hours a day, do not know all the crap that you have to go through because of some politician or whatever? What are they telling you? Real people.
The real people, and the number one issue, Sam, is the drug problem in the county. And it's certainly not just limited to Schuylkill County, but everywhere. They're asking, what are we going to be doing about ridding their communities of drugs and drug dealers? And of course, I fill them in on the task force and how it works. They're asking about blight. Oftentimes, I'm at a house, very nice house, and a house directly across the street is falling down. What are you going to be doing about that? I can let them know. They're concerned about individuals who are apprehended and released. Why is that? Can you let me know? Can you tell me how this works? Basic things, and I'm certainly not afraid to give them honest answers.
It's amazing because I have close relationships with a lot of mayors and commissioners and senators. And, when they tell me off the record some of the things that, they have to go through, the public don't see that. So when it comes to running a political race, people opponents sometimes have a tendency of just, trying to let people know, that they didn't do these things, okay? Not realizing they didn't wake up with you this morning and go into your office to see what you had to go through. And you have to protect this something, then you have to worry about politicians out there doing the things that, just, take you from that direction. When you talked about the elderly, okay, and I mentioned the elderly because I'm very fortunate. I have a great senior citizens audience. And they tell me, Sammy, we like watching your show because you tell us some things that we don't know. I don't like to take advantage of anyone, okay? This show is open to anybody. Your people are paying for the show, and you're here telling people this is what I've done. The elderly, always are the prey. And because they grew up respecting people, hardworking people, they trust people, okay? And one of the things that you did, you've been talking about scams, all right? As a district attorney office advice on avoiding scams. What are some of the things that you learned from the seniors when you have these meetings or get-togethers?
One of the things that I've learned from the seniors is just what you said, Sam. They are the target, unfortunately, of a lot of the scams because they are so trusting, and perhaps they are alone, and they don't have anyone to bounce an idea off of or guide them. What I have done is put together a booklet and a presentation called Scams and Solutions. And when I first started, I just had scams, and I thought, that's not good enough. I need to have solutions. So I can put a presentation out in about 40 minutes and go through up-to-date scams that are affecting not just elders, but everyone. And for the most part, I would say it's the phone calls. It's the letters that now are coming with checks that look real. And the individual is told to read the letter and go through their bank, cash the check, and then send money to make something happen. And I tell my elders and these groups, look, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. And if you're getting something from Canada that you've hit the Canadian lottery and you haven't played the Canadian lottery, well then I doubt that you've won. But it's so many things. The grandparent scam.
Oh my God.
People calling and telling someone that their granddaughter or grandson is incarcerated or needs bail or has been hurt. I mean, shame on these individuals. But it's something that I have undertaken to make seniors aware that it probably isn't happening, and if you're going to try to do something good, make sure, get your facts straight before you do.
Well, you had this big IRS scam going, okay? And look, any person, that gets a call and says, I'm from the IRS, et cetera, everyone, you get concerned, all right? Particularly seniors, okay, who are just living, on their retirement or Social Security, and that's another joke. The government thinks they're giving them something. They should be getting much more than we're getting, but that's another whole story. So these seniors are vulnerable, all right, and they're what would be your advice to seniors when it comes to anything at all that they hear on the phone, they get in the mail? What would be your advice?
What I've told them, Sam, is number one, if you have an answering machine, let your answering machine take the call and then you can review it. If you get something in the mail and you're uncertain about its validity, call me. Come to see me. I will take the letter, and more than likely I'm going to tell you that this is a scam. But don't pull your checkbook out and write a check. Call either the police, call me. I'm more than happy to spend the time and take a look.
It was funny. Just before we did this show, a person came in and said, I want you to know I'm in Schuylkill County, and you said, oh, really? And she started talking to you, and she was really thrilled about meeting you, first of all, and telling you what kind of good job you're doing. See,
it's always nice to hear.
Yeah, and this, you had no idea who this person was. I mean, am I telling you the truth?
Right, yes.
Okay, and then you're actually helping this person, saying, well, you talked about her area, you talked about her police chief, you talked about what's happening. So that's a sign of a person who I think cares about the different communities. And these are little things that the people look up to. I'm not in the court every day. I don't see the politics being played between judges or lawyers, and I'm not saying that. I don't see those things, okay? I don't know whether, but what happens is I do know that when a person who is in office is on the streets and they're taking care of the people's needs, that's important to me. When you're talking to seniors and you're saying, I'm Christine Holman, I'm the district attorney of Schuylkill County. If you encounter this, here is my number. You call this particular number or call the local police, etc. you're giving them advice, okay? That's the way I look at it. Don't you look at it the same way?
I do, Sam, and I really do care. And I think the seniors know that for the amount of presentations that I've done and that I'm still doing, and I'm sincere.
You've been on this show many times, okay? And you had a district attorney's corner, so to speak, where you gave advice, okay? And you found the time to come up to educate, and there's never a time that I ever called you, as well as some people in office, that you've never been. So look, let me try, and you're there to answer questions. When you talked about the drug problem, okay? You established the Schuylkill County Drug Court, okay? You helped us to. What is the Schuylkill County Drug Court?
Sure, and yes, I was one of many, Sam, that helped get the Schuylkill County Drug Treatment Court off the ground. What the Schuylkill County Drug Treatment Court is about is really a second chance. It's an alternative to incarceration for a drug addict, not someone who is making a living selling drugs, and trust me, we have a screening process. An individual has to apply. They have to go through a risk and assessment evaluation with adult probation, and they also have to have a drug and alcohol evaluation with our drug and alcohol team. If they go through all those steps and are accepted, they are then taken. They are taken into the team's auspice. Really, they are monitored weekly. They are drug tested. The program is approximately 14 months long, and there's really no room for error. We have sanctions. We meet weekly. There's staffing 9 o'clock Thursday morning, and then immediately after is the actual drug court. And the drug court works this way, where the judge goes through each individual, each participant takes a few minutes with that participant, asks how they're doing. Do they have a job? How do they like it? How's family life? Are they getting treatment? Are they going to NA meetings? Are they going to AA? Are they reporting to probation? And trust me, if they're messing up, we know about it and we let them know.
Moving on, what I mentioned about Dr. Moylan, who is a Schuylkill County coroner, who's, I think, doing a superb job, and here again, sometimes it's a thankless job. See, politicians don't like to see this, particularly if you're on the opposite side. When they see success happening, you know, they want the power back. And it works both ways, Republican or Democrat. I'm not picking, but I mean, so they try to get the power. But now you work very closely with him because of, you know, drug overdose inquest. You're talking about an inquest that you're working on. What is it?
We're working on an inquest. Well, we have a date set, October the 12th, and there was an unfortunate incident in the Ashland area wherein a gentleman was pronounced dead at the hospital. And there are just some circumstances, some questions surrounding this individual's death that they just haven't been answered. And not that the police haven't been investigating, and hats off to Ashland Police and the state police. Anyone who has had a hand in this investigation has just come up empty. So Doc Moylan and I have done, I think we had 3 inquests already. And this one is a little different because it also involves the Northumberland County coroner. So he's going to be working with Doc and myself. It'll be at the Simon Kramer Institute, October 12th. And we will conduct an inquest just as we have before, just like a regular trial, bringing in the evidence that we have, the police, anyone who was involved, and we're going to try to flush out what we can. It's another tool that we can use to put some closure to this matter.
And the thing is, that when the public sees this and they see what's going on, if someone's thinking of doing something that's not right, they better be concerned, because they see what the district attorney in Schuylkill County and the coroner is doing to, you know, to come after these particular things. One of the other things that you did was, which I thought was very interesting, was creating the Schuylkill County Most Wanted list. Okay, now that's something, you know, that I thought was genius, really. How did you come about starting that?
Well, Sam, it was actually brought to me by the Potts Republican. I liked the idea. And when I came into office, I came in with a lot of bench warrants outstanding. About 42% of the bench warrants that we currently have were inherited.
See, here again, the general public sometimes do not know that, okay?
Precisely.
So you inherit these things, okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
So we inherited all of these bench warrants. Every time there's a court proceeding, whether it be a preliminary hearing, an arraignment, jury selection, guilty plea, a trial, there are a handful, maybe three handfuls of defendants that don't show up. So they add to the bench warrant list, and it was getting out of control. So instead of just adding up the numbers, I felt that something else had to be done. So I put together Schuylkill County's, first it was just going to be the top 10, then it grew. So the Potts Republican has twice yearly put an insert in, publishing the most wanted, which the public goes crazy for. In the Schuylkill County Courthouse on the first floor, I have a big trifold board with about 100 photos.
Wow.
We have a website, and I want to assure the public that I am working daily, as are the county detectives and police, to apprehend these individuals who just try to avoid coming to court. So I would say monthly, roughly 100 bench warrants that get processed, and those individuals have to account and answer questions as to why they didn't appear in court. Also, most recently, Sam, I was in West Penn Township, and an elder gentleman said, why don't you have the Schuylkill County Most Wanted in the Times or in the Tamaqua area? And I said, well, I'll talk to the Times about that, but I also then had someone approach me about putting Schuylkill County's Most Wanted on a roll-around, like a smart TV. And that is actually at Hope's Mini Market in Tamaqua. If you go into that mini market, you can see Schuylkill County's Most Wanted.
You know, this is, again, another thing, a deterrent. If you do something, you know, your picture is going to be there. I think it's great that they're working with you, especially the possible Republican Herald. They're doing a great job.
Yes.
You know, Christine, I know that there's a lot more we could talk about, but the most important thing is what I want to let the public know is in Schuylkill County, Christine campaigned 4 years ago for district attorney. She said she would fight to protect our elderly, work to stamp out the scourge of drug abuse, and fight community blight. Well, folks, I think you see from all these articles, district attorney staff observes Crime Victim Week. Schuylkill Haven police receive funds to complete shoot house. A woman guilty of murder. I mean, so you cover all the bases, and I think that's what I would be looking for if I'm going to be considering. Now, you have opponents running, and they have their stories, etc. But you know, as one person told me many years ago, facts sometimes could be ugly things.
Yes.
But you know, facts are facts, and these are facts. And so I applaud you for that. I really do. I think, you know, a public official, and when she says she works every day, folks, believe me, you know, I've received calls from her on Saturdays and Sundays, and where are you? Well, I'm on Tamaqua, I'm here, I'm walking the streets, I'm doing this. Do you ever stay home, Christine? Well, I'll be home at 9, 10 o'clock, 11, then I'm up tomorrow morning at 6. So you're doing your job. How do you stay awake? That's what I want to know.
I really enjoy my job, and that keeps me energized. The adrenaline.
Yeah.
And I'll say to you, Sam, what I say to people when I knock on their door. Hi, I'm Christine Holman. I'm your district attorney. I'd like you to consider me for re-election. I would really like to continue my work.
Well, Christine, well, I know I won't. This is not the last time to be on the Sam Lesante Show. Folks, November 7th, look at the facts. Look at the facts. Don't be misled. Don't vote for a person who you think is a nice person and they're funny and they're this. Well, that's good, but they're representing you. We'll see you next time.